So for our last session, we're going to bring on Stripe, Slack, and they're interviewed by our Chief Customer Officer, Allison Pickens. Some of you saw her earlier for the keynote given by Nick, and she heads up our customer success, services, and support teams at Gainsight. So please welcome on Allison, as well as Vicki and Christina.
Great. Hi, everybody. How are you enjoying Pulse so far? Good. I hear some cheers. You guys are still kind of energetic today, even though it's late afternoon? Okay, good. We'll take that as a yes.
Pass that candy.
Awesome. So some of you guys might have seen me this morning. I'm Allison Pickens. I'm Chief Customer Officer at Gainsight. And today I'm going to be talking about, with these two lovely ladies, we're going to be doing a panel on managing customers through hypergrowth. I'm thrilled to be joined by two incredible leaders today from two incredible companies. So first we have Vicki Lynne, who leads US and Canada sales at Stripe, the software company that engineers tools for building and running internet businesses from Fortune 500s to startups. Prior to Stripe, Vicki spent nearly a decade at Google in various sales and operations roles. Vicki holds a BS in management science from MIT and lives here in Oakland with her husband and two daughters. So can we give a round of applause for Vicki? All right. We also have Christina Kosmowski, really excited. So Christina heads up Slack, customer success and services. She says our customer success team advises and guides a wide variety of customers, ensuring they launch Slack successfully, adopt it widely, and are continually driving business value from Slack. Prior to Slack, Christina was SVP Customers for Life at Salesforce for over 15 years. Christina holds a degree in industrial engineering from Northwestern University, where she led the Society of Women Engineers. In addition to her studies, Christina was a founding member and captain of the Northwestern women's varsity soccer team. Let's give a big round of applause for Christina. Awesome. Great. So it's probably obvious to most folks in the audience that these two companies have had incredible success stories. They've grown super quickly. So to kick this off, I would love to learn more about what it's meant to be in hypergrowth at each of your companies. So Christina, starting with you, what's it been like to be in hypergrowth, and what are the challenges you've encountered along the way?
Absolutely. Well, they are champagne problems for sure, so we'll take them any day. So I'll just set a little bit of context. So for those of you that don't know Slack, Slack is a productivity tool, so we're really focused on improving communication and productivity, and our tagline is really where work happens. And so all of our customers are really engaging and doing all their work within Slack. And it started just 3 years ago, and so Slack started out very virally, had a very user experience, consumer feel to it. And then around 6-9 months ago, the company really decided to say, okay, we're now taking this extreme viralness that we've had, and we're saying, how do we move up market and really make this an enterprise software application? And so we just started a sales team about 9 months ago, just started a customer success team about 6 months ago. I came on board around 3 months ago. So you can see we're really trying to actively keep up with the growth there. So there's a couple things that we're focused on. I mean, first of all, we can't hire fast enough. So good news for all of you in the room. This is an exciting space and domain for everyone. So we're trying to hire fast enough, ensure that we're hiring the talent that we need that can grow with us in the future. The second is we're really shifting the mindset of the company. So we're shifting the mindset of the company in terms of moving from just a consumer and user focus to moving more towards an enterprise focus. We're also shifting this mindset around customer success and saying, hey, it's not just about a hero mentality. It's not just about throwing people. It's really about outcomes that we're driving and programs that we're driving, and then we have tools and we may use people to drive some of those outcomes. And so we're shifting that mindset there. And then thirdly, we're really looking at data and saying, how can we use data to help us manage through this growth so that we're targeting those customers with the right tools. So whether it be people or processes or programs or one-to-many events, that we're being very precise on how we're doing that. So those are really some of our key challenges we're faced with right now.
Awesome. Vicki, what's it been like for you?
Yeah, it's been, we're a little bit older than Slack because we've been around 5 years, not 3. But it has been a similar story for us. And I think some of the most interesting challenges for Stripe, for those of you who don't know Stripe, we provide online businesses who are trying to accept payments. We make it very easy for them to accept money, and also increasingly do interesting and complex things, whether it's paying out money, preventing fraud, et cetera. One of the most interesting challenges has been in the early days of Stripe, John and Patrick, our founders, did a lot of things that were not scalable. They're incredible from a customer success standpoint. So they had a chat room where they would man it during the day and try to make sure every customer on Stripe got a prompt answer. They got frustrated, actually, that they had to go to sleep, and the people would ask questions in the middle of the night, and so they wrote a chat bot that would wake one of them up. And so you can imagine Patrick jumping up from his bed, grabbing his laptop, typing in the answer to this chat request in the middle of the night, and then going back to sleep.
Oh my gosh, that's customer success on steroids,
Yes.
I would say.
When it came to acquiring new customers, they actually created this thing that became dubbed the Collison implementation or integration, where instead of saying, hey, you're a new customer, you want to try out our product, if any customer said, yeah, that sounds interesting, instead of sending them an email or a link to a beta, they would say, hey, give me your laptop. I'm going to code Stripe right into your website right now. So again, very effective in the early days, not the most scalable customer success strategy. So our interesting challenges have been, how do you take that care, that service mentality, that focus on the customer, and really scale it? As today we're processing billions of dollars, and John and Patrick can't necessarily do every single integration anymore.
Fascinating. And we're definitely going to talk a lot about scaling today, so let's keep that in the back of our minds. Now, one aspect of your growth has been, I think both companies have moved up market to serving enterprise clients as well. So just Vicki, starting with you, what's that transition been like?
Yeah, I think the thing that we're obviously going through it, so I can't say it's successful yet, but I will say our approach has been to really lean into our strengths. So our strengths are developer efficiency, speed to market, innovation, and it turns out that although startups care a lot about that and smaller companies, large companies do too. Many large companies, increasingly, their developer efficiency is critical to their growth and scale, and their ability to be seen as innovative and actually be innovative doesn't change when you become a large company. And so our ability to work well with larger customers has been to embrace the things that have been made us successful as startups, but also expand our understanding and how we treat non-technical decision makers, non-technical use cases, and making sure we're building out for a much more complex and broad ecosystem.
Got it. And Christina, how does that experience compare to what you've gone through?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's very similar. I mean, I think we really are spending a lot of time right now, though, educating our internal team. So it's really important that we kind of treat this as we would treat one of our customer change management projects as well. And so we're going out and advocating for, what is customer success, and specifically in the enterprise, what are some of the processes that we need in place, what are some of the pain points, painting those scenarios, success stories, things like that from the customer are really important. Along those lines, we also are building kind of scalable processes and frameworks, and I think it's really important to find that right blend of, enough that we can guide people in how to do things, but not so rigid that we can't be agile and iterative. And so we don't want to go out there and say, we're going to design all this in this ivory tower. We're saying, let's just get it out there as quickly as possible. I mean, our Red account process was launched with an account. We said, this sounds like it needs to be red. And so we just created the process right there with one of our customers, and we got it out there and we tried it and we iterated and figured out what worked and what didn't work. And so as we're rolling out these processes, we're trying to keep those frameworks in place, but still make them continuously evolving and iterative. The second piece is data. I'll say that probably over and over today till you guys get sick of it. But it is really using the data to tell us how are our customers doing, what are the things that they need, so that we're prescriptive and we're not just reacting to them. I think, early on we could see we would just be in this reactive mode versus actually being these trusted advisors, these prescriptive, proactive, and saying, here are the trends we're starting to see in how you're using Slack. Here are the types of things we're seeing, and building it from there.
Great. Now, I think a lot of us have experienced when we move up market, enterprise customers require a lot from us, right? They require a lot of investment. So, how have you guys made sure that even as you start, serving enterprise customers, making sure that they're happy, that you also continue to invest in the long tail of small business customers and making sure that they're successful?
Yeah, I'll start. I think it goes back to that segmentation strategy and being really clear and saying customer success is an outcome. It's something that we're doing. It's really the culture of the company, and there's multiple ways we can do that. And it's not just about throwing resources at the problem. And so we're very clear, all right, in the high end, we're going to be in this high touch model. In that middle tier, we're going to be in a more pooled model, which is where we're going to be using data to kind of proactively go out to customers. And then in the lower end, we're going to build more of a one-to-many type programs and communities that we can build with our customers.
We never ever lose focus on our developers and our startups. It's very core to who Stripe is. And in many ways, I think both different segments of customers, we learn different things that could benefit each other. So tactically, what that means is we continue to focus a lot on our documentation, our self-serve programs, our support experience is right now, I think, a pretty democratic view where if you're a small customer or a large customer, there are some differentiations, but actually you get access to many of the same services. And I think our goal is we want the startup to be as successful as a large company. Their needs are different, but they should be able to get anything that they need to be successful.
Totally. And you guys have a really strong developer community, and I think a lot of us would like to develop that sense of strong belonging that you guys have helped cultivate. What do you think are like the key pillars of a really strong community?
Yeah, I think I'm not the expert on this, so just a little bit of caveat, but I think key to our success has been hiring people who are part of that community to work for Stripe, because there's an authenticity and an understanding of what that community wants and needs and how to engage with them that is very hard to replicate from the outside if you're not really ingrained and understand that their motivations, how they tick, what really resonates. So I think we've taken a very authentic approach, and I think especially for developer communities, there is no other way to be successful.
It's actually really interesting. I have noticed across a number of customer success teams that they'll hire customer success managers from the types of companies that they want to serve. For example, if you're selling into healthcare, you might hire people who perhaps don't have customer success backgrounds, but maybe have worked in a hospital before and really understand the environment.
Yeah, and we have a lot of ex-founders and entrepreneurs who have started companies in the past that work at Stripe now, and I think that's been really critical to continuing to keep that voice within the company.
Totally. Let's talk about hiring a little bit, because in past conversations, I know that, especially when you're scaling this quickly, this can be just the most important thing that you get right. So, Christina, how have you thought about evaluating talent, during the recruiting process?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's top of mind for me right now. I think, I'll start out by saying diversity is really important. It's important to me as a leader. It's important to Slack as a company. And I don't just mean diversity in terms of, gender or race. It's what does the team look like? So I really look at, okay, what are the skills that we have and the experience levels and the industries and the types of things that are on the team today, and then where are we missing those gaps? So, we start to fill those out. So we'd say, all right, we're missing some of those folks who have been and seen the really large, hairy implementation. So do we hire consultants, or we hire folks from more tenured customer success teams there? Or if there's particular industries, we might pull from that. So I think it's important that you look at your current team and you're ensuring that you've got that wide range of skills. The second thing that's really important is this concept of agile and continuous improvement. Many people who've worked for me for years would say, a promotion is actually keeping your job year over year, because we are going to evolve, and we're growing as a company, our customers are growing in the maturity levels, so you've got to be able to constantly, continuously improve your skill set. So you've got to have that growth mindset is important. And then thirdly, it's important, I talked a little bit about frameworks. So in customer success, especially in high growth companies, you cannot write out a clear methodology. Like, we're not going to be able to spoon feed our people, and we don't want to. We want to have these kind of agile shades of gray so that we can move and move the ship quickly. And so we've got to have people that can use their sound judgment, that can use their experience, can use their skills, and then we've got to empower them, of course, as well to do that. So that's important.
Yeah, I totally agree with Christina around the agility, ability to learn. Stripe is in the payment space. We have hired very few people that actually have a background in payments. And in many cases, we've found that the more somebody knows about payments, the harder time they actually have at Stripe, because they have these sort of ingrained, this is how the world works, versus we're building a company around imagining how the world should work, and that can sometimes hold you back if you know too much. I thought one thing I would add to what Christina said is, I think increasingly, particularly for software technology companies, being technical, even if you're in a customer-facing, non-technical role, is critical. To have product ability, to understand products, to be able to speak to technical decision makers, to know what is possible with your product. Stripe is a very technical product, but I think even if we were not an API and had more user interfaces, I think it would still be critical for us to hire relatively technical people. I mean, it's so important to us that we help in our interview process. We have candidates do a API debug exercise, and again, it's not to expect that they are technical, but that they understand what an API is and can kind of logically walk through how to understand it. We even have started offering coding classes for all the non-technical people at Stripe, because we think it's such an important skill for everyone to be developing.
Christina, I see you nodding a lot.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think one of the things we've said is at least demystifying technical. You don't have to actually, at least from my standpoint, you don't have to be super technical, but you need to be able to talk the talk and understand it and not be afraid of it. And there's so many people on the team that you'll realize, they hear something that sounds technical and immediately shut off and think, oh, I need to bring in the expert here, versus, no, you can listen, you can program manage this, you can bring in the right people. And so I think it's having more that aptitude that who you need to bring in at the right time and not being afraid of it. And there's just education, like with what Vicki said that you're doing, just what are some of the key languages? How can you not be afraid of this? And then of course we are, to that diversity point I had before, we are looking at saying, okay, we also need some people who have more heavy technical skills as well, so that we can round out the team.
Mm-hmm. I've noticed some interesting parallels between team member success on the one hand and customer success on the other hand. In the customer success world, we talk about how it used to be that companies were so focused on acquiring new customers, there wasn't enough attention given to actually retaining them. And I think sometimes in the talent world too, we can focus so hard on recruiting that perfect person, but the reality is after that, we got to make them like a successful member of our team too. So as you guys have scaled and you're just hiring so much, how have you also made sure that your team members continue to learn and develop and grow in their careers over time?
Do you want me to start?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is important that you have a path for folks and that they feel empowered and that they're growing and learning. And it's not always cookie cutter for every individual, but it's kind of being able to talk about, here are the skills that you're gaining. Here's the different ways we're going to support you, being super transparent around what other positions and opportunities you have, and looking at, I think, leadership and development doesn't always have to mean you move up or you manage people. It can be around thought leadership. It can be around, cross-functional skills that you're gaining. There's lots of different paths you can take. So I think that's important, and I think also just this empowerment piece is really important, especially in customer success, that you do that with your teams.
Yeah, I think I feel very fortunate working at Stripe because the company is growing so quickly and we're expanding in so many different areas that career growth and progression and investment in people is really about just making sure they're exposed to things that they're interested in learning, and whether it's new product lines, new functions, international. I feel actually very proud that the account management customer success team that I have, we've had a lot of internal transfers to other parts of the organization, whether it's to our Dublin sales hub or to our internal biz ops consulting group. And I continue to see this role as a stepstone to really all the different functions within the company because it is so multifaceted. So.
Awesome. So when you guys think about the performance of your team members, what are the metrics that you use to assess whether your team is effective or not?
Well, I think it evolves, especially like the maturity curve. So I think about when at the end of my time at Salesforce, those metrics look very different than what they look like at Slack right now, just because we're at a different stage. The customers are at a different stage with our product. So I think there's some kind of key metrics, and then there's also some subjective things that you want to look for. So I think you could bucket it into one is like a revenue kind of number. So at Slack, we're more focused on increasing incremental revenue. At Salesforce, it was much more churn focused because, again, where we were in the maturity, but it's some sort of revenue score. Then I think it's some sort of using those data analytics. So what are health scores? So are you seeing your customers continue to get healthier over time and measuring that, or their adoption, so something there. The third I think is engagement. So are they attending those programs you have? Are they engaging with you and coming to conferences, things like that? And then the fourth is some sort of programmatic kind of thing. So, right now, again, we're the maturity where we are Slack, it's just could be very binary. Did we launch the Red Account program? Did we launch a segmentation strategy? Did we launch these things? And then as we get more sophisticated, we would look for some metrics there. So that's kind of how I think about it.
Yeah. I would say on the metric side, we're probably earlier than a lot of the companies in this audience because we've had to grow so quickly and our business is evolving. My perspective on success is that each account manager really is the mini CEO of their portfolio. And again, because the growth rates have been so high, it's about what is the most important and impactful strategy for that portfolio. Is it retention? Is it the growth opportunities? Is it just solving the operational issues to improve CSAT? And over time, I think we'll get a lot more rigorous around understanding our different customer segments and by account manager or across the team. How do we goal the team? But I think we're still in a really exciting phase where each account manager really's portfolio looks and feels very different, and the opportunity to define the strategy for that segment or that set of customers is really exciting.
Sounds like a great role, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah, like being mini CEO of your portfolio, that's a compelling concept. I'll interject just with a quick announcement. It sounds like some of you guys are entering questions on Slido, which is great. If you haven't already, you can go to slido.com and under the hashtag Pulse2017, you can submit questions. And we have about like 12 minutes left in the panel, so we'll start pulling from the questions here as well. I do have actually a couple more questions for you guys, and then we'll look to the audience. So one of them is, as you're growing so quickly, I can imagine that you really don't want to get lost in cross-functional tensions or misunderstandings. So how have you guys ensured that cross-functional alignment is really strong as you continue to grow? Maybe Vicki, we could start with you.
Again, I think we're pretty fortunate at Stripe that we have a very strong user-first mentality. And I think these like cross-functional friction or collaboration starts with the leadership team. And our leadership team, and I think all the managers on the team, embody a very strong sense of being able to roll up their sleeves, get into the weeds, and help with specific customers, and just doing what's right to resolve an issue or to go after a growth opportunity and not letting silos get in the way. And so I think over time, as we've built out more functions at Stripe, because I think actually the account management team was an early function that established itself around helping to manage and grow these customers. It has actually been a very collaborative interaction because there's such a user focus. For example, we even do our product roadmap planning first around, okay, what do we want to say to users on like a stage like this about what we've launched in 6 months, and then we do all of our product planning and go-to-market strategy behind what is our user message. And so I think it has been relatively easy for us to align cross-functionally around that, and it's actually more about who is the right team that is best set up to scale this particular specialty or function or service.
Great. And Christina, how have you thought about building cross-functional alignment?
Yeah, I mean, I think, first of all, I think customer success is inherently a cross-functional role, even if people don't think of it that way. It is, and you have this kind of responsibility to be the customer advocates across your company. And I think at Slack, we're really fortunate and similar to Stripe, where there's just this maniacal user focus. Just everyone really is focused on the user and the customer, and there's this strong desire to ensure that success. But I will say, we're a newer function, so the company existed for many years without our function and without sales. And so, I think sometimes they look at me like I'm speaking Greek because I come in and ask questions, say, well, what about us? Have you thought about this? This is how maybe an enterprise customer would be experiencing this, or this is something else we could think of. And so there really does need to be a lot of internal education around why this is important, putting them in the shoes of a customer, sometimes an admin or a manager versus just a user, and talking about how those experiences could be different, and really, walking through success stories and customer stories and value propositions of where, when we had customer success, how that's moved the needle. And so we're continually beating that drum.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to think about which functions exist first, and then having to adapt your evolution strategy based on that. So because account management at Stripe was actually a more established function, the challenge we have today is, if there's an incident or a bug, the default actually from our leadership team is like, oh, the account managers, somebody call the account manager. And it's, I think, an evolution of, hey, we have a premium support offering, we have field engineering, there's a lot of other teams that are better suited. So it's more of an evolution of like, how do you help these other functions to kind of take on more responsibilities as you grow.
Right, it's almost like building out charters as functions crop up rather than knocking down silos so much.
Yeah.
Great. So we've got some great questions from the audience so far. I'll point to one about segmentation. So how have you guys segmented your customers over time? Does anyone want to take that first?
I think I touched on it a little bit earlier, but there's kind of three main buckets, and I think it's going to change. You've got to look at the data, and you've got to see, revenue. So what's the revenue, kind of existing revenue of the customer or immediate potential revenue? Two, you have to look at the customer ambition. So are they really excited about your product? Are they wanting to engage more? They're bringing a lot of resources to the table. And then three, that kind of health score that you're looking at, and you kind of plot those, and you then say, all right, where are we best served putting our resources? And so we kind of think of them in three modules. So this high touch module where a CSM is assigned to an account, they've got a named account. And then there's more middle tier where we're using data to try to proactively go out to our customers, where we see, we'd come in at short bursts of time, or if a salesperson or a product person said this particular customer needs a CSM for a period of time, we'd engage there. And then we're trying to build out more one-to-many programs and communities that we talked about. And again, a lot of this is idealistic. We're not fully there yet, so I'll be transparent about that, but that's where we're going.
Yeah, I think for us, this is a very hot topic, but to simplify it, I think there's a growth axis and there's a size of the business axis, and you can kind of plot almost any account on that axis and set up kind of the right touch points and structures to help support. So low growth but large account, you want to focus obviously a lot on just retention activities. For high growth accounts, even if they're smaller, I think we tend to invest more there because especially if they have like grand ambitions, they're looking to expand internationally, they're launching new business units, that's where actually Stripe can have a lot of impact on working more closely with that customer. So we definitely prioritize growth opportunity quite heavily.
Notice that lifetime value tends to be something that people think a lot about when they're segmenting.
Yeah, I think, traditional lifetime value calculations are much more based on, some sort of time horizon of 3 to 5 years where you have a predictability in revenue and you're predicting churn only. I think the interesting thing that both Slack and Stripe benefit from is the types of customers and adoption that we're getting with our users. As those businesses grow, our revenue opportunity actually expands exponentially sometimes. And so we're not in the VC investment game, but sometimes on the customer success side, it does feel that way because you are taking bets on how much you think some of these companies will be successful over time. And as long as we are there and working with them closely, I think it bodes well for the future of both companies.
This portfolio concept, I think, really applies across both the investor world and the customer success world.
Definitely.
Great. So we had a question from the audience about training and onboarding for your new hires, which I think ties into that talent management discussion we were having earlier. Christina, would you like to start on that one? How do you guys onboard new hires?
Yeah, I think, we still are evolving this. This is part of, I think, one of our largest growing pains is hiring and then onboarding people fast enough. But we definitely, have programs where we start out with kind of the general company pieces, and then we break down into sales and then customer success. We assign an onboarding mentor, and we also really ask that they get on the phone with support or look at support cases is important. And then most importantly, I think our tool lends itself to be a really critical onboarding tool because of Slack with having these public channels that you can go into, and it has all the information back in time. It's really easy for our new hires to go in and say, oh, what was happening with this account? What was happening in customer success, and kind of read through that history. So that's how we look at it. We're in the midst of building some more robust processes, of course, here.
Awesome.
Yeah, we have a program where there's a week of company-wide training, and the second week, actually, we put everybody we hire on the entire sales team and business teams through support training. So they're actually answering real live support tickets. We found that it is a great way to learn some of the details and actually build and understand the customer empathy and focus when you're answering real live support tickets. And you learn the tools and the internal product and infrastructure. And then, the third week we start to get into the sales and business training aspects. And then it's sort of more on-the-job shadowing. But I actually tell all of our new hires, I tell them, look, I do not expect you to contribute at all in the first 3 months. So all you need to do is learn and get up to speed on how to work at Stripe, how the payments work, how does our product work, because it is a steep learning curve. And I think some people appreciate that. I've been told that takes the load off of some people's expectations because you start a new job and you want to make a good impression and deliver. And for us, I would rather for our new hires that they take a lot of time to learn and invest in themselves, and that way, 6 months, a year from now, they're a much better spot. They have a much stronger foundation.
Great. So last question for you guys. If you had to give one tip to folks in the audience who are looking to build out their customer success team from scratch, what do you think it would be?
Just in general, I think don't be a perfectionist. You be iterative. Just try things with customers, try things with your team, and see how it works. Because I think customer success looks different in every environment and every company. And so don't hold yourself that it has to look exactly like this or it has to look at where you were before. Don't just get stuff out there and try it.
I've noticed that agility can be really powerful for customer success teams. Awesome. Vicki, how about you?
I always say it's important to know the playbook And I think Gainsight in this conference is great because it gives you the ideas and what all other companies are trying and what the playbook looks like. And then it's important to throw out the playbook, but do it in a thoughtful way that you're making the right trade-offs and you know why you're throwing the playbook out.
Awesome. Thank you both so much for your time today. Big round of applause for our two amazing panelists. Thank you, guys.
Awesome.